So I believe most of you have watched my video on the 12 mistakes to avoid when buying a piece of land in Nigeria. However, I want to take it a little bit further, and I'm starting a 12 series. So I'm picking each of those mistakes and I'm breaking it further down for you to, because a lot of people have been asking me questions. How do I determine purpose of buying land and all of those things? So this first video is going to be talking about how to determine the purpose of the land you are buying. So I often ask people questions. I mean, in the last 12 years of me doing this business, I want to buy a piece of land. Why? I always ask them the question of why. And I tell them, see, there is no right answer, neither is there a wrong answer. I mean, I remember somebody answering me and saying that, okay, the reason why I'm buying is because my friend bought. I said, okay, no problem. It's a good purpose. And thank God that you have friends that are giving you positive vibes. Yes, that's also important. I call it positive peer pressure. Okay, so the first question we need to answer is, how do I avoid the mistake of purpose? So how do I determine the purpose of a piece of land if you do not know the purpose already? So how do I determine if you do not know the purpose already? So there are factors and questions that you need to consider, and some of those questions and some of those factors, I will be rolling them out for you. It will help you a great deal in determining the purpose why you want to buy the piece of land that you want to buy. Because whether you are buying this piece of land for store of value, or you are buying it because you want to build a house, or you are buying it to give it out later on in the future, or you are buying it because there's a dream that you have. I remember a friend of mine bought a piece of land because he wants to have a football academy, and so all these reasons are equally valid. Or maybe you are just buying it, just like I mentioned earlier. You are buying because friends are buying it, or probably you just have loose cash somewhere and just feel that you need to buy, or probably you've attended the lecture that no, buy land. Somebody bought land, you've heard the story, somebody bought land for 50,000 naira and today the land is 5 million naira. No problem. All those purposes are equally right, but just so that you can properly plan and put things in alignment, that is the reason why this video is very, very important. And the number one mistake you don't want to make is the mistake of purpose. Your landed property should be serving two purposes for you. Number one is that it should be giving you cash flow. I'm always talking about cash flow. So number two is that it should also be appreciated in value. So for the first one, which is cash flow, it might not be giving you that much cash flow because it's just a piece of land. Most likely what you are probably doing here, there are other things you can do on a piece of land, but most of the things that you are going to be doing on a piece of land, depending on the location and depending on the zoning, the regulation, what purpose that land can serve for at that point in time, depending on all these factors. So that will determine the cash flow capacity of that piece of land. But one thing that land must be doing for you is to be appreciating while you are sleeping. That one is a given. Any land that you hold that is not appreciating, and some of the things we are going to be looking at will help you to know, okay, at what rate should your land even be appreciating and all of that. So appreciation is very, very, very important. So these are the factors that I feel that are necessary. There are 5 of them, and number one is knowledge. When you want to determine your purpose, the knowledge is very, very important. So your depth and your width in real estate is very, very important. Your depth and your width in real estate is very, very important, because you want to understand what real estate stands for, what carries value when it comes to real estate, what should determine a place that you want to stay, for instance. When it comes to real estate, what should determine a good investment, what you want to when it comes to real estate. Then what type of fund should you put into a piece of real estate. So your depth in real estate is very, very important. So after looking at knowledge, your depth and your width of knowledge in real estate, the next thing is your mindset. Owning a piece of land in this part of the world is from different cultures, whether you are Igbo, Yoruba, or whatever you are even watching from, there's always a cultural affiliation. In fact, even in places like, I remember I was watching a video, somebody said this land existed before the United States of America existed. You know, I was talking about a piece of land in Texas. Said this land existed before United States of America existed. So there's always a cultural and family affiliation. So your mindset is important. So you need to query your mindset. You need to question your mindset that, okay, this mindset that I am carrying, okay, is it going to be a valuable factor in me owning this piece of land? In me determining the purpose of this piece of land. So, for instance, there are people that are from, their father used to be a farmer, so they have agricultural background and things like that. So when they are buying land, they always want to buy land towards the taste of their father. You get it? So, and sometimes some of those land might not be as valuable as it's supposed to be. I remember the story of a man and a pharmacist. In fact, the story was said that he was the first chartered pharmacist in Nigeria, and he had a dream because his father was a farmer to have the biggest cocoa farm in the whole of Africa. And they keep buying land very close to swamp, not knowing that there are 3 stages land goes through. You know, number 1 stage it goes through is the stage of where you do land banking. Then the next stage it goes through is the stage whereby the land you have banked, now you start building on them. Then the 3rd stage is and the final stage is the stage whereby you now use the same land for urban regeneration. That means after building on it, maybe you build 5-story building and I say, oh boy, we need to pull this thing down. We need to give it 15-story building. Put the 15-story building on that land. So it goes through that 3 stages. So you need your mindset. You need to work on your mindset. So after knowledge, the next thing is mindset. Then number 3 is your past experience. Of course, similar to your mindset too, is your past experience. Okay, so what are the knowledge that you have gained from past experiences? It can be positive, it can be negative. Probably you've heard stories of somebody bought a land and lost the land. It can affect the way you deal with real estate going forward. And I often tell people, especially in this part of the world, if you don't buy na lie, you won't buy na true. So let me explain that. The reason why there is a fake is because there's an original existing somewhere. So that's the reason why number 1 and 2 are very, very important. So you need to have knowledge. You need to have the right mindset. And your past experience should not be a stronghold in holding you back. I've had people share story. The reason why he didn't buy a property is because one of his friends bought a property and they nearly killed him. No, that's not an excuse. You just need to go for the right knowledge. The same way some people bought their property and lost it, which is a bad news. It's the same way there are good news. Some people bought property and they were able to hold it for 20 years, 30 years, and some of those properties that they bought for almost peanuts and today has been able to store wealth for them. I remember sometime during the last election, one of the politicians sold one of his land for 6 billion. And that was the money he used for the primary election, even though he lost out. But imagine, that was just a piece of land that he owned somewhere. And he sold it for 6 billion. So ask yourself, in the next 20 years, what piece of land you want to hold on to? I won't answer that question for you, but it's a question that you want to answer yourself. So the next factor you need to consider are your long-term goals and vision. So where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Where do you want to be in the next 15 years? So probably you are watching me right now, or watching this video right now, and probably you are not even in Nigeria. Or, there are 2 people in Nigeria, the people that have gone in their mind and the people that are about to go in their mind. Or you are already gone. So you need to ask yourself this question: long-term vision. Are you planning to come back to Nigeria? You need to start investing back in Nigeria, especially the fact that you have currency advantage, exchange rate advantage is playing out because of the devaluation of the naira. So you need to ask yourself, what are your long-term goals? So where do I want to live? Do I want to retire into a farmhouse? I remember somebody was sharing a story with me of a very prominent family in Nigeria that they own acres of land in their village. However, by the time you get to the beginning of the estates, it's just green areas. And they just built one family lounge in the middle of the estates. So green area to the right, to the left, to the front, to the back. So, and they planted windbreakers at different intervals. to help control the wind and all of those things. So these are questions you need to ask yourself. When I'm 60, where do I want to be living? When I'm 40, where do I want to be living? When I'm 30, when do I want to be living? When I'm 70, when I'm 80, when I'm 90, where do I want to be living? So your long-term vision and age. So lastly, which is the fifth one, is your current status. How old am I? Okay, what's your marital status right now? Okay, when are you going to start paying for school fee? So are you still a student? So all these little questions. So what are my disposable income? What are my disposable time? Because all these questions are critical questions that you need to really factor in when determining the purpose of the land and even where you're going to be buying the land. The next thing I will be talking about right now are questions that will joggle your mind, questions that you will need to ask yourself that, okay, now that I've looked at all the factors that will help me determine this, the purpose, so that I will avoid the mistake of purpose, then I need to now ask myself these critical questions. So I've aligned about 6 to 7 questions depending on how you look at them. So there are some questions that are 2 in 1, 3 in 1. So I've aligned them in such a way that it will help you to carry out you need to probably get a notebook and answer some of these questions. And it will even help you beyond just buying a piece of land. It will help you in mapping out your asset ownership, real estate ownership roadmap. It will help you a great deal.